Welcome to another episode of Equipped Agronomy Podcast, where we bridge the gap between seeding equipment and agronomy. And this is presented to you by Borgo Industries. My name's Curtis DeGoyer, and I have across the table from me, Mr. Jeff Strukoff.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Jeff.
How's it going, Curtis?
It's really good today.
That's good.
It's really good. We're going to have ourselves a heck of a topic today, I'm thinking.
You know, every time we get together and do this, it's always an adventure because you never really give me much of an outlook as to what we're doing. So what are we going to talk about today, Curtis?
Opener sizes, Jeff.
Size matters. I knew you were going to say that. I wanted to beat you to a punch on that one.
You did. Does it matter or not? That's the question.
Depends on who you ask.
Well, we're gonna look at it between 2-inch and 3/4 inch here. So I don't know. This one could be very specific to openers.
Yes.
I think I got a couple questions actually lately just on opener size, both in wheat and in canola. And I think that's something that we've done. We've had this question before, and we wanted to
usually that comes up as soon as guys get into this ordering drill season and everything like that. It always seems to be there.
Or tips are wearing out, right? And we're getting into spring here, and tips are wearing out. Well, now's the chance. Do I replace it with something else, right? And so I think we'll just dive right into it as far as what we did. Mm-hmm. And then we can kind of discuss from there a little bit more.
I think it's worth talking about because people don't realize how much work actually goes into doing these trials, these specific trials.
Yeah, taking those tips off after they've been used is not something you're going to do every year.
And having to take them off and put them on, and then take them off and put them on again because you're doing it. Because we are going to talk about both wheat and canola, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. But you know what, Jeff? And rightfully so. I don't think anyone's going to feel sorry for us. So let's just get into the results on it. So
suck it up, Buttercup.
What did we do? We had a 10-inch drill. So this is on 10-inch spacing, and that's probably a very important part of this topic because a lot of times people will say, "Well, can I go from 10-inch spacing 3/4 inch knife? Well, what happens if I went to 12-inch spacing with a 2-inch knife?" Right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's probably some arguments for that, right? You're gonna utilize seedbed utilization. That's what it kind of comes down to. Yeah. SBU, seedbed utilization. How much of the seedbed are you using when you put a tip through the ground, right? And what's the percentage of the useful ground? So, but for these trials, we had a 10-inch space, and we're doing 3/4 versus 2-inch. Mm-hmm. Okay. With that, then is what are we trying to accomplish? So we're going to talk about wheat first. Okay. With wheat, 10-inch spacing, we're going into it. We did it in 2023 and in 2024. Mm-hmm. 2024 last year, pretty good year. We had pretty good yields in general, right? Just looking at some of these results. Which was
surprising, actually.
Well, yes and no. We had good rain at the start of the year.
Started out perfect.
Really nice moisture.
Dried out after.
And then dried out at the end. But I think cereals really utilized that early moisture, set up their yield, kind of got it, they got majority of their
rooting.
Nutrients and rooting done kind of thing, right? Well, anyway, versus canola, which we'll talk to later here. But okay. So what happened here? So what did we do? So we had a 3/4 inch tip and 2-inch tip. And we had a control. So no phosphorus, no PK going down. So I think part of this conversation is talking about seed safety. The wider, the bigger the seed bed utilization, the more room there is in that trench so that hopefully prills of fertilizer don't get right on top of the seed, right? And it doesn't burn and you get a little bit better seed safety. That's the theory. Okay.
Yeah.
So 3/4 versus 2-inch with a control. Well, then we put in 35 pounds of P2O5 and 15 pounds of K, right? So,
yep.
So what is that? Geez, what are we into? Almost 70 pounds of MAP, and what is that? 25 pounds of. It's almost 100 pounds of product. Well, we'll
pretty close to 100 pounds actually.
Okay,
yep.
Pretty close.
Yeah. But then we went with
2-inch.
We went with a higher rate too, though.
And then we doubled the phosphorus.
Right.
Where we went 70 P2O5, and then 15K and 3/4 or 2-inch. And what did we see? Well, last year, a whole lot of no difference.
Yeah, it was fairly even right across the board.
Right across the board. Again, pretty wet year.
Yeah.
Right across the board.
Pretty.
I mean, we're into
decent yields though.
Into the 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, range from 92.5 up to like 94.5.
Hard red spring wheat at 90 is.
Yeah, that's
especially
very good.
Our neighborhood. That's
Yeah,
pretty good.
really good. So protein didn't change. Even plant stands. I thought there might be, and we have seen in the past sometimes on 3/4 inch where the plant stand dives down a little bit when we pushed it to that high rate in years previous, but really did not see it this year.
I would attribute that to having a substantial amount of rain shortly thereafter seeding all these trees.
Very, very good. Yeah, very good conditions off the get-go. Okay, so what happened? What about in 2023? So same trials setup, 3/4 versus 2 inch control, 35P and 15, and then 70P, 205 and 15K, right? And so the same exact setup. Well, last year we actually saw more of a pattern, I guess, showing up where between all those different treatments, they're actually nothing significant. There's a big range, though. It's kind of weird, but I think there's just a lot of variability in 2023 in our trials anyway there. But every time the 2 inch versus 3/4, the 2 inch was always better.
Even in the control.
Even in the control, which was really interesting.
Yep.
And then, plant stands really didn't change again across the board. Proteins really didn't change. But there was just this trend. So I think in 2023, that's where we thought, oh, maybe there is something to 2 inch spaced, on wheat or cereals in general, right? It just needs a little bit more room in there. And they seem to do better. I mean, in general, when we talk row spacing, when we talk seedbed utilization, I mean, ultimately, I wish we were on like 5 inch spacing, right? And we were utilizing more of the ground when it comes to cereals. But logistically, you can't get through trash, and then no-till is the far outweighs the row spacing. So that's how we kind of got to that 10 inch spacing. That's a bit of an aside. Can we improve it though with a wider tip? It
appears that way on certain years.
Yeah.
In wheat.
Yeah.
That a wider opener may provide a little additional benefit, possibly.
And to be,
I rest assured, we will do this trial again, though.
Well,
or did you cut this one out?
I don't know if this one's going to make her in there.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see here.
It is an interesting trial, though.
It is interesting. There's no question. And that 2 inch spacing to it, we got to remember, it's specific on these tips. We're using Borgo Tillage Tools tips, which, as another aside, Borgo Tillage Tools, for all that didn't know, is actually a separate company from Borgo Industries, right? You got Borgo Tillage Tools, you got Borgo Industries, separate company. That's
actually surprising because, we come from St. Brew, where both companies are located.
Both are in St. Brew.
But they are different companies.
Yeah, different brothers there. So, and anyway, the 2 inch...
We play nice together, though.
We do, yeah. The 2 inch in this specific opener, I would say it's closer to about 1.5 inches anyway. It's like a 3/4 inch tip and it flares out. Right. It's for field finish or anything like that. It's actually quite nice. Really can't tell a big difference. Does it pull a little harder? I mean, I don't know. I can't say for sure. And that probably a little bit.
It's hard to tell when you have a 30 foot drill and a 580 quad track pulling it. So,
yeah. So, I mean, arguably you could say they're going to pull a little bit harder. But yeah, it just didn't pop up this past year. So 23, is there potential in the wheat? Yeah. Let's shift gears then. Let's go over to canola. Does canola typically respond better to wider row spacing or narrow row spacing like cereals do? I would say the general comment on that is not really.
Not really.
Really? Like cereals...
There's a row spacing effect on cereals and other crops, but when it comes to canola, because of the branching activity, I would say that 12 would be as wide as I'd want to go. We've ran into problems when you go wider than 12 on a row inch spacing basis.
Yeah, we've had that 10 versus 20 inch spacing.
Yep.
Remember that one?
Yeah, we went to 10. Not that there was 15 and 20.
No, we didn't have a 15 possibility, but we locked up every other opener.
Yeah.
And
20 was not good.
Well, it was just different.
Yeah. Harvest management was an issue.
It leaned over more.
Yeah, and it was hard to keep it on the canvases when you're going through. And
So
couldn't swath it because it was too light and fluffy to go through the hole. And yeah,
harvest man. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Harvest management was.
That was a learning experience.
Yeah. So 10, 12. I mean, we know. I wish I was on 5-inch. Is it? I mean, there could be some arguments to all this too. But in any case, canola is not known for that. Yeah. So what are we trying to accomplish with the opener size then when it comes to canola? If it's not row spacing.
Well, I think there's a lot of guys that actually, when you talk to them at trade shows and stuff like that, they're looking for any way they can increase seedbed utilization. Because contrary to popular belief, there's still quite a few single shoot drills that are out there, and they're looking for better seedbed utilization because they're maxed out on how much seed place fertilizer they can put with canola. Mm-hmm. So if they can get more seedbed utilization by going to a wider knife or a wider opener, what are they sacrificing by doing that? Mm-hmm. Well, this is kind of an interesting experiment because you can actually, kind of evaluate that.
So it's very much more so on the seed safety. Cereals are pretty hardy. They can take a lot more seed place fertilizer versus canola. Doesn't take as much or is more affected by seed place fertilizer.
When it comes to wheat, you can really pound the fertilizer in the seed row, and it's easily to compensate for an increased mortality with cereal seed. Generally, because you're using some of your own, and if you're buying it from somebody else,
price-wise.
Yeah,
I see.
You kill a pound of canola, though, it's like $14 to $16 an acre. You don't really want to kill any more seed than you have to.
Yeah.
So if you can save a half a pound by going to a wider opener, maybe that'll be worthwhile looking at.
But Yep, and that's exactly what we did.
What did we find?
Well, let's start back in 2023 here. Mm-hmm. That's when we kind of got this one fired up as well. So same kind of setup as the wheat. That first year where we had no phosphorus going down. We just wanted to see what the seed did on its own. Mm-hmm. So in 3/4 inch and 2-inch. And then we went and we put in 25 pounds P205, 3/4 or 2-inch in the seed row. And then we actually went up to 50 pounds P205 in the seed row. With both 3/4 and 2-inch. Mm-hmm. So just targeting that exact thing, right? So 2023, that year started off okay and then dried up though, right? 2023 was when we only had like 3.5 inches of rain or something.
All year, yeah.
All year.
And it all came in May, actually.
Yeah. So actually really good seeding conditions and moisture right after and then dried right up. So that's where like our yields are good considering, right, in the 40s. No difference in yield. There was actually no response to phosphorus that year. 3/4 inch versus 2-inch. Plant stands wise, no statistical difference across there, which I thought maybe, but there's not even really, I can't even really say there's a big trend. Well, no, I take that back. 0.2 across the board, just maybe slightly better on the 2-inch on the plant stand.
Slightly.
Tough to
statistically, I'm not really sure, but
tough to give that one up for sure on that. But okay, so 2024, this past year, again we had the control no phos. We added a few more things to this one, where we said, okay, well, can we put in? We actually added the split into this one a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So we had the control 3/4 versus the 2-inch on that. And then we had 25 P205 going into the openers there, into the 3/4 inch openers or the 2-inch openers. Same kind of setup. We did split it off though, where we put 25P in the seed row and the other 25P out in the mid row this past year. At the end of the day, looking at this trial wise, again, no significant difference in yield. Man, phos doesn't pay.
Oh, phos pays every time. It's just.
Well, this year again, it just didn't really show up. But the plant stands wise, the highest was when we put nothing in with the seed row. That's pretty typical, where even just a little bit of phos in the seed row didn't matter if it was 3/4 inch or 2-inch. We see that little bit of a dip in plant stand. Mm-hmm. But again, no difference. Oh, even when we went up to 50 P205, so like really pushing it. 3/4 and 2-inch opener, there was no real difference there.
Significant plant stand difference.
No.
Yeah. Actually, not really a significant yield difference either.
No, not really at all. Mm-hmm. I mean, it brought it down slightly, but not much more. And I think maybe that could be contributed to pretty good seeding conditions as well. Yeah. So don't you just love it when you do all the work on the trial and it's like, meh. What, did we see anything that's actually beneficial? Well,
I think it's still good.
Oh, it's still great. Like, I mean, obviously, if something pops out at you and it's like, oh, wow, look at this.
A guy asks you a question, you've got an answer now.
Yeah. And there you go. And what's the answer?
Well, there's no significant difference between the two of them. I do think, specific to canola, though, I do think the 3/4 inch knife does give you a little bit better seed placement with a small seed like that. I think it's more consistent,
more precise,
more precise.
Yeah,
you get a little less movement with a narrower opener.
That's probably pretty fair to say, pretty fair to understand.
So I don't know. I guess everything that's going to emerge is eventually going to emerge, but if everything comes up a little bit evener,
more even,
more even,
more even.
I don't know.
Evener.
We'll have to discuss that later.
We have to bring in our producer for this.
Yeah.
More even, evener. If it's evener, she should be better too. Yeah. So
you just keep giving her.
I guess. Yeah. I guess if the question comes up, what am I telling? I think it's going to be a cereal drill. Yeah, I think there's potential. If it's just canola, I mean, obviously you're going to be doing both. Is there enough to lean one way or the other? If I were going to 12 inch, okay, so that's a question. If we were to switch this up, we had a 12 inch drill. Do you think we'd see different results?
I think you'd see more of a row spacing effect than you would an opener effect. I don't think it would really change too much. Actually.
Well, but if we had 12 inch with 3/4 or 2 inch though, because your concentration is 20% more in that row, is there potential there? That
sounds like the start of a new trial.
Yeah, no
I thought you said you weren't going to do this anymore.
I would have to lean more to 2 inch, I guess, if you're doing it that way.
Well, I guess theoretically. Yeah. But theoretically on a 10 inch drill, that's kind of what we thought too. And it didn't really pan out. So I don't know. Until you do it, I guess you don't know.
Is that the tipping point? That's something. Now, here's another question. Let's keep going. Theoretically, if we're talking theoretics here, should we be going 3 inch?
Ooh, that's crazy talk, actually.
Why is that?
I don't know. Do you think you sacrifice anything with placement when you go that wide? I don't have a lot of experience with going that.
It is a bigger boot going through the ground. We did a couple demos with it.
Yeah, like depending on the soil characteristics, you're definitely
that's probably the bigger thing, right?
You're going to move a lot of soil.
That's when you start talking about moisture loss.
Yeah.
Right, when you go to that. And so if you're in an area with higher moisture.
There's lots of guys that do use wide openers, but I don't know. I prefer a narrower opener to a wider opener myself. Well, that's my personal bias.
I think that's pretty good expectation of, we're into a no-till opener precision a little bit more, and you start to put a big work boot on the bottom of that thing. Mm-hmm. Does some of that precision go away? Does some of that value go away? Right. So I think that's an important part of it as well. So I think at that point, no great answer. I mean, that's the way trials work sometimes. We just rambled on
for 20 minutes and we don't have a great answer.
If what you're doing is working, it's tough to say to go to a different route, right? And I think that's almost the conversation I have a lot of times is, well, should we change? Is it working good for you? Yeah, no, we're happy with what's happening.
Keep on.
I can't say you're going to be better off going either one way or the other there. So, okay. Well, I think we're going to leave her there.
Sounds good to me.
Yep. We'll decide if there's going to be another trial moving forward or not. But at this point in time, did see a little bit in the cereals as far as potential yield bump there, going a little bit wider opener. Not every year. Didn't see much seed safety though on the canola side, and I think that's what we were targeting more on that, going from 3/4 to 2 inch. But that's where we'll end it.
As you were. Carry on.
Thank you very much for listening, and we'll hopefully stick around for the next one.
Have a great day, everyone.